This morning, yet another disturbing video showing yet another scare in the air. Passengers on board a Delta flight from L.A. to Atlanta pinning a man down after the airline says an off-duty Delta flight attendant tried to take control of the plane's PA system. The captain took to the intercom asking passengers to help.
We'd like all strong males to the front of the aircraft to handle the problem passenger.
Air traffic control then diverted the flight to Oklahoma City Friday night, where police took the passenger into custody. It's just the latest incident involving what the FAA says is a surge in bad behavior in the skies. Earlier this month, another Delta passenger was arrested after reportedly attempting to breach the cockpit. And on this Southwest flight from Sacramento to San Diego in late May, a passenger punched a flight attendant, causing her to lose 2 teeth.
Since the start of the pandemic, incidents involving dangerous passengers on planes have absolutely skyrocketed. This past Sunday, 2 separate American Airlines flights were forced to divert their flight from their flight path because passengers were causing a disturbance. On one of those planes, a passenger tried to open the plane door mid-flight. This uptick of in-flight disturbances has put flight attendants in a terrible spot, essentially turning them into club bouncers who have to mitigate dangerous, often violent, and sometimes drunken situations at 30,000 feet. Airlines often keep lists of these unruly passengers and ban them ever from flying with their airline again. But the issue is nothing is stopping them from hopping on a flight with a different airline and doing all that nonsense all over again. Earlier this month, the CEO of Delta Airlines wrote to the U.S. Attorney General proposing a more permanent solution, one that would prevent unruly passengers from buying airline tickets. He asked for the Justice Department to create a national no-fly list, a list that would be shared among all the airlines and would ban people convicted of dangerous, violent behavior from all flights. It would work the same way as the no-fly list for terrorists. If you're found to have been unruly or violent on an airplane, you would be banned from flying again, not just with that one specific airline, but full stop. And it seemed like kind of a nonpartisan, no-brainer, totally reasonable solution for this problem until a group of Republican senators came out against the plan this week. The fact that this spike in airline disturbances coincides with the pandemic is, of course, not a coincidence. Of the close to 6,000 unruly passenger reports investigated by the FAA last year, 72% of them were because of passengers who refused to wear masks. And that is why these 8 Republican senators are against a no-fly list for unruly airline passengers. They're worried that creating such a list might unfairly liken an anti-masker, many of them Republicans, to a terrorist. The senators write this to the Attorney General, quote, creating a federal no-fly list for unruly passengers who are skeptical of this mandate would seemingly equate them to terrorists who seek to actively take the lives of Americans and perpetrate attacks on the homeland. Joining us now is Sara Nelson, president of the Association of Flight Attendants. Ms. Nelson, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Alex.
So let's first start with the suggestion of a national no-fly list, one for unruly, I would call dangerous passengers. Does the union support the list, and were you at all involved in the ideation around it, if you do support it?
We've actually testified 3 times in the last 6 months before Congress on this very issue and encouraging DOJ, TSA, FAA to work together to put this list together so that the government can actually control that, communicate that in real time. We can have a transparent process with due process, because a lot of people are concerned about that due process for good reason. But we need to use this as a consequence for people who are acting out on planes. We already have fines. You've heard about the fines from the FAA. That hasn't slowed this down. You've heard that the DOJ has started to prosecute, although we haven't made it all the way through those prosecutions with a conviction and people landing in jail yet. But we have this other option as well. Secretary Buttigieg has said this is on the table, along with all of us. And other airlines are supportive of this, too. We need to work together to resolve these issues, to use the threat of losing your ability to fly if you are causing this much problem on a plane, because you are putting everyone at risk when you're doing that. And it's very much like the other no-fly list that we have for a very good reason.
Yeah, I mean, when we call them unruly passengers, these aren't people mad that there's no, like, cranberry juice cocktail in the drink cart.
No.
These are people trying to open flight doors in the middle of a flight, which is a hazard, a life-threatening hazard to people on the plane.
And access the flight deck. Yes, and access the flight deck. We had that just this last week. And so we had a flight attendant who used a coffee pot, used the training that we have, the crew member self-defense training that we worked so hard to get in place and that TSA manages, and made available to flight attendants again in this pandemic because of these issues, because of this spike in these issues. Every single day when flight attendants go to put on their uniform today, they think, is this going to be a sign of authority and leadership in the cabin, or is this going to be a sign for someone to launch a vicious attack, a violent attack against us? And that's very different. I'm a 25-year flight attendant. You know, this used to be an occurrence that would happen on a bad day, 1, 2, maybe 3 times in a career. And every single day, flight attendants are facing this. And what it's causing is people do not want to pick up as much time. They're having a difficult time staffing those flights because of that. There is a consequence all the way around. And what our members tell us as well is that 61% of these incidents are also accompanied with racial, gender, or homophobic slurs. People are taking the brunt of this at work, and we've got to stop it. We can't accept this as the new norm.
Okay, well, so when you lay all of that out, it's a no-brainer, right? Something needs to be done here, but obviously we're running into resistance here, specifically partisan resistance. Why, to your mind, are Republican senators coming out against a national no-fly list?
Look, they're making this all about masks, but I want to be really clear that while a good number of the reports over the past year have included mask issues, the vast majority of the violent events have not had anything to do with masks. So they want to set a certain narrative here that has created conflict on our planes in the first place. People are at a stress level 10 all over this country because they have been kept in a state of not knowing what to believe. They've been told 2 different things during this pandemic, 2 totally opposite things. And they've been told that they are at odds with each other everywhere they go. And what we find when we get up in the air is that actually Americans crave solidarity. They actually want to come together, and that's what we do as flight attendants. We bring people together. We're not there to tear them apart. But people are coming to the door of our aircraft with the leaders of this country, having told them 2 different things. And those 8 senators are directly responsible for that confusion, that anxiety, and the stress level of everyone around this country, because there have been 2 sets of information here that have been given to people, and people don't know what to believe. And specifically about masks, that they have made a political issue, this public health device that can keep all of us safe. They have made a political issue, and they have put people in harm's way. More people have died, and the workspace that I work in has become combative and has become a very difficult place to be. And as long as they continue to do that and make this the new norm, they're also putting our economic security at risk as well, because people at a certain point are not going to want to buy airplane tickets if this is what they think they're signing up for.
As someone who flies very often, my heart goes out to you and all the attendants that have to face these dangers at work. Let us hope that these 8 Republican senators are not a bellwether for where the rest of their party is going to be on this very sensible-seeming national no-fly list. Sara Nelson, President of the Association of Flight Attendants, thanks for being here and up there.
Thank you.